welcome to another exclusive interview at Recovery Today Magazine by RecoveryTodayMagazine.com, where first and foremost, we're a magazine of hope. Whether you're considering addiction recovery for yourself or loved one, or you're actively in recovery a short while, maybe many, many years, you're going to find all kinds of topics related to addiction, recovery, and living a happy, successful, and sober life at Recovery Today. My name is Rob Hanley, and I'm the editor-in-chief of Recovery Today Magazine, and as usual, I'm joined by another really cool and interesting guest. However, this particular guest has also put together something that is really, really cool as well. Please meet Jason Downs. Jason is a British South African. He's also a recovering addict and an alcoholic who has, unfortunately, firsthand knowledge of something that happens all too often, and that is relapse. He was originally sober for 5 years, and then he relapsed. Stopped using the tools, as he said, that kept him sober, and now sober for 3 years. He's put together something that he says, and is being said, is akin to having a relapse prevention kit. I think it's really cool. I checked it out, and it's called the nowWHAT Recovery app. Welcome, Jason.
Sure, Rob. Thank you so much. What an incredible opportunity. I must say I'm pretty humbled and very grateful for this opportunity to be with you guys. And yeah, I'm a great fan of the Recovery Today magazine. It's definitely an incredible read. So yeah, thank you for the introduction.
You know, I find it really cool from, Western Hemisphere all the way to South Africa, because you are in South Africa, correct? Where about in South Africa are you?
So a little province called KwaZulu-Natal, in a little town called Ramsgate. It's a beautiful little town, great place to come for a holiday. I call it home.
They don't have, if I go there, the sharks don't eat me or something like that on the beach? That's what I think. That's why I think of Discovery Channel and Shark Week is what I think of when I think of the beach in South Africa.
Of course, no, for sure, you get a lot of that. That's a lot of that in Cape Town. But the Sharks here is what we call the national, or should I say, the national rugby team, the Sharks.
Ah,
so, yeah, no.
Okay.
You've probably got better chance of getting bitten by one of them than actually an oceanic animal.
Good. It looked, from some of the pictures that I saw, I did want to ask you where you're from, because I saw on your Instagram, I saw some of your personal pictures and things like that, and it looked like a really lovely beach and palm trees and just a really happy spot. So.
Oh, it's incredible. No, I do appreciate that. No, it's beautiful here. If anybody's interested, it's quite affordable, I must say, from the United States. So yeah.
Good. Well, hey, by the way, terrific. I haven't gone. In fact, my wife has gone to Africa. I've never been there. So she went on a safari to South Africa years ago. So I think I need to go. So now I have some friends there.
Absolutely.
Good. So one of the things I wanted to say a little bit in terms of this is thank you for taking the time. I know that you had mentioned prior to our starting that you're kind of in a fun little time here of brownouts and a power outage and things like that. So I'm glad that we can actually connect on the internet at all right now. So thanks for doing that.
No, it's a great opportunity. I wouldn't miss it for the world. No, thank you so much.
Good. Well, currently right now your internet seems to be coming through nicely, so we'll see if we have to go back sometime later and re-edit, or maybe we just got to do the whole interview again. But I think we're actually good, so we'll just say a little prayer that we're gonna continue on. So I like to just kind of start out a little bit. I kind of have gone through the intro of a little bit of who you are, but it's just a sentence or two. Tell us a little bit about our readers, a little bit about yourself, what makes you tick, and who are you?
Oh man, wow. Okay, so this is a wonderful opportunity to speak about myself, which makes me mostly nervous. Okay, so humbly and gratefully a recovering addict and alcoholic. Been in recovery for 3 years. And sure, my journey in this recovery has been since 2009. I went into treatment for the first time in 2009 because I had a serious drinking problem. I was what you call an abusive drinker. And it really affected a lot of my relationships, including my daughters and definitely with my ex-wife. And so I went into treatment, and for the first time in my life, I got to finally find a solution, right? When I came out of treatment, 11 months later, so I went through a very extensive treatment process. I was given the tools, but yeah, it was up to me to maintain those tools. And for a complicated person like myself, I just tried to do the best that I could. And unfortunately, when life kicked me down 5 years later into recovery, you know, I knew I couldn't go back to the alcohol because I knew what it did to me. And I was very fortunate that I did a very basic exercise. And maybe I can share with that with you later. But so that basic exercise was, I wrote a letter and I attached so much anger, so much frustration. In fact, I blamed everything that I did to my family on my disease. I started to shift it. So no longer was I holding the blame to myself and beating myself over the things that I did. Even though I've got to take ownership of what I had done, a lot of that negative emotion, I put it towards the booze. I put it towards something that was actually creating me to do that. So
very interesting. What happened as a result of that? I haven't heard anybody say anything quite like that. What happened?
Oh, anytime I look at a drink, I've got this reminder of so much anger because I know exactly what it does to me. I know what it creates me to do to the people that I love and to myself. And there was one line that I put in that essay, and that was, everything that I've done to others, you've done to me, and you made me do that. No longer will I allow you to make me a hostage to the things you want me to do. So it was one of those things that really drove home. And that's we're actually putting into our program. We're developing an online program that's attached to the app as well. So it's all these things that I've gone through myself, and obviously a team of people that I've consulted with to say, listen, okay, so what's helped you? What's worked with you? What are the little additions that you've done? And so, yeah, okay, that was the reason why it's kept me from the booze for 10 years. And I'm very grateful that I haven't picked up a drink. I make sure I don't eat any food with any alcohol in it, because I hate it. I don't worry about anybody else drinking around me. As long as they don't step over my boundaries, sure, and I communicate it clearly and obviously effectively and without any frustration. But yeah, I don't have any problem with my family drinking. But yeah, if they get out of hand, I'll let them know in a loving way. However, I got into some financial crisis when it was about 4 years into my recovery. Unfortunately, I was back with my family, back with my wife at the time, back with my daughter, and it was a time of starting a new business in Johannesburg. And obviously, it's cutthroat, it's big business. And unfortunately, got into the game that I knew nothing about. You know, it was a family business that I thought I'd get into. And unfortunately, it got us into a lot of debt, about 170,000 rand worth of debt, equivalent to about $17,000 at the time. And so this put me into depression, a lot of anxiety. I was living with a lot of anxiety. I was going to meetings. I was speaking to my sponsor. However, I don't think I was working the steps, and I didn't have a journal. I wasn't processing my emotions. I wasn't doing the things that I needed to do to keep me in line. You know, I wasn't doing the basics that I find are highly important. And so my frustration or my emotions came out to my loved ones, and I started to become what people call a dry drunk. And to the point where, you know, my ex-wife would say to me, you know what, I kind of liked you better when you were drinking. And I was like, okay, no, now we have a problem. So unfortunately, I resorted to marijuana. You know, I heard in the rooms that some guys do it, and they call it the marijuana maintenance program, which I don't recommend. There was nothing maintaining. It just kept me into the rabbit hole. And that was my relapse. It led me to other stimulants, because 2 years after using marijuana consistently, I was becoming motivational. You know, I was losing motivation in life. I wasn't able to function properly. So I needed a stimulant. Yeah. And coffee wasn't kicking it. Yeah.
Right.
So, and unfortunately, I resorted to a drug I don't want to mention types or names here. Just the basic
That's okay.
now legalized.
Suffice to say,
yeah.
So let me ask you this: a little bit, I guess, about who you are too. Like, are you an entrepreneur? In my mind, I'm thinking business person, entrepreneur. Like, what is your background besides kind of what happened in the recovery journey? Like, who are you?
Sure. Oh, okay. For me, I'd like to call myself a social entrepreneur. Yeah, I'd love to create opportunities where I can help people by operating or setting up businesses to do that. I love to be able to set up smaller operations where people can create opportunities for themselves. And it's just finding the right candidates who are willing to take those opportunities and go forward. But for me, I believe that my aim is to help people. And by doing that, I also need to live, and I also need to create a way so that people have a value system in it for themselves. Yeah. I know that for myself, if I don't value my recovery, I'm not investing in it. Or should I put it the other way around? If I'm not investing in my recovery, I'm not valuing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, be it time, money, and effort. So yeah.
Were you a programmer as well? Prior to this? Because I want to kind of get into a little bit about, obviously about this app, which I think is very cool. And by the way, one of the first things when we started communicating, the first thing that I said, I'll just kind of put it here in the interview, is congratulations on creating an app, number one. Number two, on creating an app that actually gets approved in Apple, because we know firsthand it is a arduous process. It's very difficult. There are no firm timelines. You submit that thing, and you have virtually no idea about when it's going to be. They don't give you a lot of feedback or anything like that. So congratulations for doing that.
Thank you.
I actually got the app. I purchased it. I have gone through it too, and I thought it was really cool. But before I kind of get into maybe feature some of the things like that, I wanted to know, so did you? I get kind of social entrepreneur, and I like that. I think that resonates a lot with a lot of our subscribers. Would you consider yourself like a computer geek or a techie person or something like that as well? Then
I wish. No, unfortunately not. I've had to invest. I've had to invest quite a bit into guys that can develop it.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of teamwork that has gone behind this. It hasn't been a one-man band, that's for sure. And for me, I think my background comes in. As soon as I left treatment, I went and studied counseling, so substance abuse counseling. I don't like to follow that path in counseling. I'm more of an educator. I love to educate. I love to learn and to teach people what I've learned. So that for me is where my heart's desire is to stand up in front of people and say, listen, can I tell you what the problem is? I can tell you what the solution is, because, let me tell you how. And it's all been life experience. So, I'd like to consider myself more of an educator than anything else. Yeah.
I'm grinning ear to ear, and I find it remarkable to connect with somebody on the other side of the world as well, because how you're describing yourself is very much the same as me. And I'm grateful for everything that in my life and where things are. But I remember once taking a really cool survey from actually a personal development guy. It's called Darren Hardy. He's very popular, and it had like 400 different esteemable qualities, and then you had to eliminate. It came down to really to 3, and 2 of them. Yeah. One of them was about prosperity and being generous. That was one of them. But the other 2, kind of in a sandwich, was and I sense the same from you. At least the third part I get very strongly. The first part is I have a really innate desire to learn, to connect with people, to understand. I'm the person that asks, as you can tell, a lot of questions. I want to know details about things, but almost. The whole other thing has been to later transfer that information to somebody else, whether it's an individual that I am recommending something to or telling somebody about, or saying it's kind of like this, or I met a guy that said this and this is applicable to you, or it might be.
Oh, I love that. The first word that came to my mind is I love to connect people. I love to connect people. So absolutely. I mean, if I know somebody who has a solution for somebody else's problem, I'll be like, right, get in touch with this person. They will definitely.
Terrific. I completely get it, and we could probably go down a long process that you and I would really appreciate a lot more. But I want to actually talk as much as I can about overall what you've created, how it kind of came to be. And it's funny that you said that you had gone into therapy, because one of my main questions is like, are you a programmer, therapist, like computer geek? Who are you? But so I'm kind of guessing in my mind, like, 5 years is a pretty legit time for somebody that is in recovery. And so you have this happen, you kind of slip back into it, you're saying, I got to pump the brakes and do something. So how did you kind of start to think like, okay, to put this together? I mean, how did you put this together? Did you think like, I need to journal, I need to do this? I mean, one of the things in my intro that I had gathered from our talking was that a relapse prevention kit. Like, to me, it's like if I was going to bake a cake, I would have to think, okay, what are the ingredients overall for that, I guess. So tell me the genesis of how this kind of came to be. Like, then you started this, and then the light bulb went on and said, oh my God, I could create an app. I mean, how did this happen?
Okay, beautiful. No, that's an incredible question. Thank you. Okay, so obviously through treatment, one of the key tools that they taught us was journal. Journal a minimum 3 times a week, every second day. And if you really want to, make it a daily thing, because then you get to learn about yourself. So my one counselor, who is actually one of the most fundamental people that have influenced my life, and funny enough is now one of my consultants developing the program for me, for the app and for everybody out there, is that I needed to develop a relationship with myself. I needed to know who I was. Who is Jason? I was taught by my experiences who I was not, or why I was not good enough. That whole saying of, if you look at a fish and judge a fish by how it climbs a tree, then it's never going to feel like it's going to match up. So for me, I was always looking at myself through other people's eyes, and I never actually got to know who I was. So that journaling, that's one of the major features that we focus on, is how that came about, is develop the relationship with yourself, so that,
And I guess quickly, as a quick rabbit hole, who have you discovered that you are now? I'm curious. I mean, how would you summarize that in an elevator?
Oh, man. I'm a person with an incredible heart for others. I'd like to say that I'm very grateful for the heart that God's given me. I've become a very empathetic, compassionate person because of the things that I've gone through. And I have I don't know if the word is right, but a histrionic personality at times, where I love to have an outburst of energy towards people and just go out and just be comical. Almost have like a class clown, and I don't take myself too seriously most of the time, which is absolutely fun for my daughter, and sometimes embarrassing for her as well. So one of my favorite qualities is that I had the ability to put a smile on people's face, and that's what puts a smile on my face as well. So all these things I'm learning about myself. My values was one of the biggest things. I value family, I value respect, I value honesty. I never thought I did because I lied so much. I valued integrity, and honor. Those are the things that I'm striving for still. And so
these are the esteemable. It's funny. These are the esteemable qualities, and I've been our belief is that actually getting people off of drugs is really very simple. It takes a few days, 2-3 days, a week, or something like that. But it's the underlying issues. And then my brother, to give him credit for it, had said, who owns many rehabs and treatment centers and things like that, had said that It's rebuilding somebody into by small, esteemable acts, so that we would describe ourselves as honest and the things that we were not before. So I think that's really, really cool. But I don't want to go too far off track about.
Of course.
I mean, I think that's really cool to know, like, exactly who you are and how you are. And when you said that, when you said I had to kind of redefine it, just begged the question, like, what would you say about yourself? So we're talking a little bit about about journaling. So you're in this process right now, and you're thinking, okay, you relapse, and you're starting to work these processes. Journaling, I assume, connecting with a sponsor.
Gotcha.
Or staying connected and being accountable.
Yes. Sorry. Thank you very much for bringing me back back on track.
No,
okay.
Good.
So the journaling was the reason why that's there. Now, we definitely believe in support. We've always craved connection, right? And so as soon as I find myself in this community, I knew I could relate with people, and people could relate with me. And the more I got to share about myself and the more intimate details about how I think about myself and about others and the things that I've done in my life, I got to see that there was very little judgment coming from others. And so now I learned that I didn't have to judge myself so much. So that's why that support is absolutely paramount. So we do try and push everybody to to get into a support meeting. I'm sure there's more than just NA and AA and CA. No, there's more on the world where like HEAL meetings. So we try to connect with people as quickly as possible to those meetings, so they can find somebody that they can go on this journey with, especially if they're coming out of treatment.
And that is what, one of the things I found interesting, by the way, you said connecting out of treatment, it just took me to a whole different thing, is what are the statistics if somebody goes to like a 30-day rehab for, say, opiates or something of that nature, that they're going to stay in recovery?
Okay, so I can't give you exact details on the research, but I know there's about 1%, and if we're just talking about opiates, I think it's going to be 0.07%. I heard this, and that was about 10 years ago when I heard those statistics. So yeah. I know it's very low, especially on a 30-day program. You're not even touching some of the stuff that are traumatic. You're not even touching some of the things that are, delving in and processing those emotions. So a 30-day program,
or even something reasonable, say at 60 or at 90. I thought that I had read in some of your material that was like 90, 94, 95% of the people relapse. And then I kind of come back around to like a relapse prevention kit, and I want to go into like, well, how does that overall work? So I guess to set it up and frame it correctly, like if you're and I know that people that have been in long-term recovery, like a year, I think it's actually almost the opposite, like only a small percentage, whatever that might be, 10, I don't know what it would be, but it's like almost reversed if you're in long-term, and I believe that it is because of relationships, support, connections, and then finding a purpose. Is that somewhat, am I off target on that?
Oh, no, you've nailed it. No, obviously, look, I mean, you can also speak from your experience with the magazine and obviously all the interviews that you've done. Of course, the longer the treatment, or should I say, the longer the recovery process that you've got yourself into, right? It's like anything. It's like anything. The more you invest into it, the more you're going to value it, the more you're going to continue with it. So yes, it is definitely the connection. It's definitely the relationships. It's also the ability to see. Okay, now I'm going to get into a little bit of
and then let me set you up for the next question where I'm going to go to. But before you do that is, how do you build this into an app, okay? Because on one hand, a lot of people are thinking, well, you need to go to a meeting, which I'm sure that you're not saying, no, don't go to meetings, but they're thinking that, but we do have these on our persons almost all the time. So how did you how did you build, what does a relapse kit look like in terms of, I know what it looks like now because I've seen it in your app, but describe so go through like what it is and what you thought and how you kind of came up with this and what you put into this as a relapse prevention kit.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, so the relapse prevention plan or kit, right, is obviously the daily journal. You need to understand more about yourself. Identifying our triggers. What is out there in the world that's going to say, hey, listen, this is a stimulus that's going to remind me of the situation that could bring on stress, worries, concerns. And as soon as that happens, we need to contact somebody. So we've got the emergency button for that, right? You know, I know I've been in a situation where I feel like I don't feel like I want to call anybody. I haven't got airtime or anything like that. So I can press the emergency button to all my emergency contacts that I trust. They can phone me and, you know, help me.
Do they get a text message, or do they get a text message, or does it call them, or what does it do?
So the email gets sent out, and so does a text message. We've got an international bulk SMS service attached to that. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. An emergency
international
SMS goes out.
International. So if I was on, if I was on a, oh, my thing is spinning. Can you still hear me? Okay, there you go. Okay. Like I said in the beginning here, glad that you took time to do this. Hopefully this comes out okay, because you're kind of in the dark, but the internet was just spinning there for a moment. So if we're connected, and we are now, if I was one of your emergency contacts and God forbid you had to send the button, I would, over in the United States, I would get a text and an email, is what you're saying.
So I think what the best way that it works is that an American number or American service can contact American service. So even if you're roaming, if you're on your same number, you should be able to contact another number in the United States. Okay. So if I'm South African and I've got a South African number, I'm linked, because of my number, it's linked to another South African number. I have tried with an international number with one of our partners, and unfortunately they didn't receive a text message, but they received an email. And I know an email is not going to be sufficient if it's emergency.
If it's time sensitive, yeah. But a text message is so.
Yeah.
Anyway, the point being is it's not, because you'd say, well, you know, you can pull your phone out and call somebody or send a text message. But the cool thing is it's kind of like being able to hit a panic button or something like that, and it goes out to a number of people really quickly and easily, maybe in the smallest moment of clarity, rather than you know, calling and getting somebody's voicemail or something like that. It sends an email out, it does all of this kind of stuff, and or maybe it's akin to shooting a flare in the sky or something like that. Help, you know, I need help.
Absolutely, absolutely. That actually came about because, well, I lost you there for a second. So let me just get back. That happened. That feature came about because I lost a very good friend. He went through treatment. He was he did about 12 months in treatment. Went over to an Asian country, and he didn't have the support team. He didn't have the support structure with him. And within about 2 months, he passed away. And so, for me, that was crucial. It was crucial that he was going to be one of the guys to test it, unfortunately. So it breaks my heart, but I do believe and I do hope and pray that this actually helps somebody out there. Then it's all worth it.
Yeah, this is probably actually, you know, first of all, I'm very sorry for your loss. I mean, truly.
Sure.
I think that these things are the saddest part about in the United States, I think there's 65,000 deaths per year. I mean, the context of that is just enormous. Like it's like several years of war that happen every single year. People unnecessarily dying. And so I applaud you for your passion to put this together. And obviously we're very synergistic, but it's unfortunately we hear this story so much. Especially when it comes to not even overdose, but a lot of times it's suicide or something like that as well. And it's like, why couldn't you just reach out? So I'm really, really sorry to hear that. Is the emergency kind of thing, is that the coolest kind of feature of this? Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, this app has got journaling. I know that it's 12-step based as well, correct? Generally?
Sure. Yep. Generally.
In terms of making amends and things like that. And then it has an emergency, it has this emergency kind of feature. What's the thing, what's the coolest part of the whole of what you put together, you think?
Oh man, okay, my my piece de la résistance. So I was working at the treatment facility that helped me, and I was there for 6 months, and then I was in the halfway house for 3 months, and then I started to grow myself, and they said, listen, would you like an opportunity as night staff? And I slowly developed myself through working at the treatment facility, where I got myself a position as the inquiries officer. So anytime somebody would pick up the phone and say, listen, I need help, what are the fees, what are this, what is this? And they would ask, a lot of the family members would ask, what's your success rate? And I would scratch my head and I said, you know what, I'm not going to give you a figure because I've got nothing that's evidence-based. I can thumb suck and give you 75% success rate. But at the end of the day, we don't know what happens to everybody that leaves after 6 months, longer. So we don't have one. So when I was in my quiet time, and I was praying, I was asking God for an opportunity to help people with the situation. And so on the app, we have got one of the best accountability features, I think, that we've created in the world. And that is the update test result. So that update test result will go out to my sponsor, and once verified by my sponsor, will go to the treatment center that I finished or completed a program with. Now they have an evidence-based success rate, and we have proof. So for the app for myself, I now have proof and a record of me staying clean. Let me show you. I've got all my drug tests all saved on my database. My sponsor has a record of them on his database. Somebody I trust. So that for me is, and we can record it and we can take a photo of it. And so my sponsor will say, right, Jason, get tested today. I'm like, yes, boss. So I will make sure that I'm being, that I'm not doing it by myself, that my sponsor is available. And obviously I produce a urine sample, and of course the drug test is taken. The results are taken, I take a picture of it, and it goes into the system and submitted and it gets emailed to my sponsor immediately. My sponsor then can log into the back office for the sponsor registration, and he will have access to my profile. He will have access to all my journal entries. So he will have my journal entries because I want him to know how I'm feeling every day. If I'm not okay, he's there to say, right, bud, listen, I think there's some triggers. I think there's some warning signs. Let's process this. So that's the kind of support and accountability that we're talking about.
That's so heavy. The journaling part is very heavy, because I think to myself, God, dude, but maybe what it boils down to is 100% transparency. Maybe that's really what it is, because I think to myself, like, would I want someone to completely and totally be able to free will read my journal? But the thing that's coming through for me, on this is, all of this, by the way, is permission based. So it's not like it's just free will or whatever. Like, all of it is permission based. So 100%. You're saying, you know what, this is how I want to be. I want to be honest about everything, and I want to be accountable. Yeah. And so, yeah, if you want to read my journal, I'm good. Like, that's fine, because only that way it can be helpful. But it is permission-based, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's very important to state that we've developed the app in such a way that none of this information comes to us as admin. It means nothing to us. What matters is confidentiality is key. I know that. For my own program, I didn't trust easily until I was allowing somebody into my life.
So let's jump onto that real quick. What do you say, actually? Somebody's been listening to this talk here, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't. So what do you say to that person in terms of trust or confidentiality or something like that? Because I know that that your whole spirit is just to actually be helpful and to connect. But how do you address that to somebody if they were in a meeting and you're telling them about it? They're like, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not sure about that. How do you? I'm sure you thought that through.
Absolutely. Look, if we're creating something that is going to reach masses, we don't have the capacity to read everybody's information. We just don't have that manpower. And it's,
you can
it's
read
also
your
not
own
important to us.
information too, right? You can read your
Yeah. So for that person that might be a bit skeptic, listen, if you're not interested in putting in a sponsor, you don't put anybody's details. That information only goes to you. It doesn't go to anybody else.
Yeah.
So, you know, that support is a choice base. So if you're not prepared to work with a sponsor or to have them access the information on your application, which is your journal, and also your drug testing, I think that's pretty much as far as it goes to the sponsor. If you don't want anybody to have that information, don't make them a sponsor.
Yeah,
simple.
Very
you
cool.
can turn them into an emergency contact rather.
Very, very cool. I think what you put together is quite remarkable. I think that it is something that will be very helpful. It is. What kind of, other than the drug testing, what kind of anecdotal feedback, because it is fairly new, correct? It's not like it's been around for, obviously it's only, what kind of feedback are you receiving thus far, anecdotally, or people like it? I mean, how's it going?
So some of the features that the guys have brought back to us is that they felt that it was a bit, how can I put it, regimental, or too rigid. How can I put it? There wasn't a particular word that was given, but they seemed a little bit bland. So we said, okay, so what are we going to do to engage these guys? So we created a little support buddy, right? A little character. I don't know if you noticed, just to make it a little bit comical and bring it in. Now, one of the things is that a sponsor would like to have access to, this person said they were going to the shops. They've been an extra hour. Where are they? They're not picking up their phone, and they've allowed access to location on their services. Now the sponsor has the ability to locate them in the back office.
Oh, wow.
So we've got geolocation settings as well that is being backed by Google Maps. So wherever this person is and they say they are where they're supposed to be, then you'll have access and say, okay, look, he's still at the shops. Maybe he's having a coffee with a mate or something.
Or you're looking at it and you're going, he's not at work. Like, why the hell is he down there in that neighborhood? There's only one reason why he would be in that particular spot right now.
Exactly. So we do truly believe that transparency is key. So for me in my own recovery, I started to see that sometimes I can't trust my own thinking.
Yeah.
It's this self-will run riot kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Again, the 12 steps coming through. So I have a support structure, a support team, wise counsel, and I say, listen, guys, help me through life. I failed the first time. Because I was trying to do it by myself.
Yeah.
Right? Now I need a team. Now I need mentors. Now I need people that's going to help me with my gymming, my eating, my whole entire structure. So that's why I keep it as transparent as possible. So the notification, we've also created notifications on a daily, weekly, as random as possible to say, hey, have you tried this? One of the other features we've got is reading material, free reading material, which is educational, that we're going to be updating as regularly as possible. Now this could be how to manage anxiety, how to avoid codependent relationships, which is a big one for early recovery. How to set boundaries, what are healthy boundaries. So that kind of information we're going to start feeding, and that's why we have a subscription base, because we're going to be feeding them so much education.
And access, one of the cool parts is access Recovery Today magazine. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I would love to have you guys there. So one of the things that we would like to set up is a potential portal for people to access recovery-based books, memoirs. I'd love some of Russell Brand's stuff on there. I'd love to have recovery, subscribe to Recovery Today magazine.
Cool, I love
possible.
That. Yeah. I love that. I think that's cool. I just kind of had to insert that little joke in there. So one of my other little pre-prepared questions that I had here, though, that I do think is fundamental is, if you were, so, I mean, a couple of things is, number one, what is the most important thing that you think? I mean, everybody have their own pre-ideas, but now you've actually compiled this, organized it, structured it, and put it into an app that the intention of being very helpful. What's the most, is there a single most important thing that you would think is necessary or needed in relapse, avoiding relapse, or dealing after a relapse type of a thing? What's the most important? Is it connection? Is journey? What would it be? Or does it person to person depend?
Oh, wow. Self-awareness. Self-awareness and communication. Yeah. So one of the biggest things is, and within the journal, we ask the questions. We ask specific questions, and we educate the people on it. And that is warning signs. What are my warning signs?
Yeah.
What signs am I portraying to others? And this is in behaviors. Addiction is, for me, it's a behavioral disorder.
Yeah.
Right? Backed by thoughts, emotions, and beliefs.
Yeah.
So, you know, I truly believe in the CBT model. And so if my thinking is off, you're going to catch it in my diary. If my emotions are off, you're going to catch it in my journal. And my warning signs are my behaviors. So self-awareness is crucial, absolutely crucial. Communicating that to as many people as possible that you trust. So self-awareness and communication, absolutely.
I love it. And
remain teachable.
I'm looking at it now, by the way, and so some of the things as I was thinking in here as I'm looking at the journal entries that you're saying that you kind of guide people along, is one of them was any amends that I need to make. Type in your answer. What was I at all dishonest or disrespectful? What is it? Personal, positive. So these are journal entries about stuff that would happen today or yesterday or whatever it would be. What triggers can you identify today? Check reading material info. How are you feeling today? Check reading. I mean, this is really well thought out. What warning signs are you able to identify today? Check reading material. And then so all of this actually gets stored into your private thing. Again, permission-based. It's not like you're interested. I kind of laugh a little bit like, well, why would you want to read somebody who says you can read your stuff might be more salacious anyway? I would think. I mean, you know, like, come on. That's one of the cool things in terms of you're saying, you know, people in recovery are, you know, I found that they're not judgmental. It's like, yeah, the reason they're not judgmental is because most of them are going, I've done shit way worse than that. Like, that's, you know, you think that's bad? Let me tell you this. And they always want to one-up each other, too. Like, okay, let me tell you, like, what really, let me tell you in the depths of whatever. So it makes us feel better, but I think there's one of the reasons that people are not judgmental is because, and the cornerstone is actually being real. So I guess maybe, you know, again, being permission-based, being as private and all the kind of whatnot like that. And plus you might journal in Evernote or something on your phone. I just contend that we do pretty much everything is stored. You know, reading the Bible, notes that you're taking, whatever it might be, is all stored on your phone anyway. You know, so what's the big deal? So I think this is really cool. One last that I have is if you were talking to somebody that had just relapsed, and maybe they're really, in fact, I have a friend, a really good friend, that had been sober for a number of years, and then he relapsed. And, of course, I'm going to tell him about this. And but what would be one of the first things that's, if you were talking to somebody and they said, I relapsed, I mean, other than, like, I relapsed myself, what would be one of the first things that you would say to that person or approach that person that said, I upped up, you know, I relapsed here? Like, what would you say?
First and foremost, the most important thing that I want people to understand is that we beat ourselves up so badly. And so it would be like simple to say, listen, go easy on yourself. The first and foremost thing that you need to do is forgive yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Because we don't want to continue with that whip. What we can do is get back, communicate. What did you learn from it? Yeah. What was the trigger? What was the warning sign? What was the process that you went through? Where was it that, what's the trauma? What was the cause? Right? Let's process that emotion because that emotion is the one that drives the behavior. Yeah?
And maybe it's a good idea that you actually say, you know, firstly, let's look at the positives. You're alive, you know, number one. I mean, I know that there's a couple of schools of thought, even with relapses, a lot of people will say, you know, hey, relapse is just it's so prevalent. Relapse is just part of recovery. that may be true. Like, I mean, obviously, if somebody relapsed, then it's and you're still on the road, then you'd say, well, you know, relapse was certainly part of my recovery. I've also met some people that said, you know, I've been sober 20 some odd years, and I've never relapsed. So, it comes for me kind of down to the whole school of thought. Like, some people go, you know, there are no mistakes in life. There really are no mistakes. There's only opportunities. I don't want to be too flowery or anything like that, but just looking at, I mean, we have a choice of how we look at things. Like, there's no mistakes. All there really is opportunities for us to learn from. So you can go, and it's just part overall of your particular journey. I will say the things that are painful, though, that everybody go, God, why the hell did I do that? Or I married this person, or I can't believe. It's one thing to be out of our mind mentally, but then the thing is to say, like, okay, you know what? I don't want to do that again. Like, I don't want to do that again. And so that's kind of what I'm kind of picking up from all of this. And I think this is, I think the app, you know, like I said, I'm looking at the app. I think it's really cool. I love the journaling. I didn't realize that the panic button did kind of what it did. I say the panic button, the connect button. I like the drug testing, the book reading. I think you're really onto something pretty cool here. Is there going to be future updates? Are you going to do another kind of app? And then I guess what's some of the more recent feedback? Like, what are people saying? I mean, are they people are as enthusiastic about this idea as I am?
Yes. No, of course. No, thank you for that. So there are some guys that are actually using it in halfway houses or sober houses, and they're very grateful for the opportunity. What they like also is the fact that they can purchase their drug test online. And so it holds that little bit of confidentiality as well, so it gets delivered to them. We're in an age of instant gratification and comfort. So you know, if it can be brought to me, excellent.
Bring my Uber Eats, bring my Amazon, bring it. You know,
bring it. Yeah. I don't want to leave the couch. But what one of the greatest things that I'm getting from a few guys and some from the ladies as well, is that it's a simple process. They've liked the fact that it's made it simple for them. You know, it's not arduous. It's in the palm of their hand. They can do the just for today reading, which I think is very great to get the mind started. So just for today in the early morning, and they can continue their day. So they've got everything in their hands. If they need to make notes or daily tasks, they can do that there as well. And so, the feedback has been, I would love to say, as enthusiastic as yours, but these guys are having to work a program, and so everybody's trying to do it the easy way. And so we haven't made it easy, we've made it simple and basic, and brought it to you.
I think that there's a lot that's here, knowing about programming and building websites and connecting people. I look at a lot of these things as kind of Lego, that you can snap a piece on. It's not like you take everything apart, that you kind of build something, and then later you can go, you know what, we could put this on here. Like, one thing in my mind I'm thinking about, like, that I know about apps and things like that, is gamification. I don't really know, like, earning badges is something that's actually very applicable to, you know, to like recovery, for example. I mean, I'm back in college. I studied Russian for a couple of years. I don't really have any Russians to talk to, but I've had this desire to start learning another language. So one of my coaches said today, you know, find an app. So I found a cool app called Duolingo, I think is what it's called. But it bothers me. It sends me stuff, and there's like, you know, kind of little competitions, and I can win awards, and I'm on this. So I don't know if gamification works in this, but I like kind of, I got that a little bit in like having a buddy that you had mentioned too that was in there. I thought that was cool. So.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, no, I'm glad you brought that on, because the gamification, we were thinking of some form of a reward system, right? And obviously, once we've got a solid fellowship, then we could actually go to somebody like Virgin Active, you know, Under Armour, so we could get discounts for people that have been working the program.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't think about that.
We are really excited about where this can go, and I love the fact that it is a plug-in, plug-on, develop on there's so much more we can do.
Yeah, I think there's there's a cool app that people screen share all the time, and it says like "day sober" or something like that. And I look at that and I'm like, it gives you like a little dopamine hit to say, congratulations, you're 1 month sober. Congratulations, you're 3 months sober. Time since last use type of thing. I see these as little things that are these esteemable qualities, like making your bed, for example. I mean, we don't really necessarily earn a degree and like I've been sober for this many. Or people ask a lot of times, well, how many years do you have, or how long? What's your birthday? How long do you have? But it's all very personal. But I just think that there's a lot that's here. And as I said, my hat is really off to you. I appreciate, as I said, in the midst of a storm, other side of the world, small town on the coast of South Africa, rolling blackouts or brownouts, what you'd said, to take time to jump on here. Yeah. We're going to put everything in here where people can actually get access. They can click through, they can find it, and help you to get this out here. I think that it's very synergistic with what we're doing, and I think that you got really something that could help a lot of people. So, congratulations.
Sure. Very, again, very grateful for this opportunity. It started something small, and it's just going to grow. It's just going to grow. And like your ideas, we take on the ideas and we'll see what we can do with them. Absolutely.
And you've done something now, instead of it being something that's on. Oh, by the way, real quick, last question. What would you tell somebody that's actually thinking, I'd like to make an app? Not necessarily talk to this guy or that guy, but just maybe from a mindset, like what should they be prepared for if they're thinking like, I have an idea for an app. What would you tell somebody like that?
Phone somebody, literally. All I did was literally, I Googled what would be the best people to develop it. Google.
It's funny, I'm laughing. That's exactly what I'm laughing at, is Google, because I'll laugh sometimes. My wife will ask me things, and I can't say, hey, Google it to my wife necessarily, but honestly, go to Google. Seriously, it's right there, everything, So
I've researched everything through Google. Fortunately or unfortunately, I work through a Linux laptop, or should I say Ubuntu.
Okay.
So I have to, if I want to install anything, I have to use Google. So yeah, guys, literally put it down, write it down, get your concept on paper. Start at the concept. Start with the idea, because that idea will grow. And the more you speak to the person that you can trust that's going to develop it, put a disclaimer together, a non-disclosure agreement.
Don't steal my idea. Don't steal my idea.
Don't steal my idea. Non-disclosure agreement, you can get generics off Google as well. So put it together and literally phone guys that can develop. If you've got a friend who can develop, start there.
Very, very cool. Well, this has been a great interview here, Jason. Thank you, Jason, of the nowWHAT Recovery app. It is in the Google. It's in the Apple Store, and it's in Android too, right?
Absolutely, of course, yeah.
So we'll have links in here where you can click it, go over to it. By the way, I did like the fact that it's not free. Okay, it's not like I think it was like $6 or $7 or something like that. I love that because you had to have some other way to monetize it or to do something. We got to buy groceries. So
absolutely,
I love that fact. So this is the nowWHAT Recovery app. We've been here with Jason Downs of way over on the other side of the world in South Africa. It's my pleasure. Thanks for taking the time.
Honest to God, thank you very much. It's been wonderful, and I think this is not going to be the last. I do believe I'll be coming to visit and see an incredible country.
Terrific. Yeah, absolutely. And anything we can do to help, we certainly will. So it's been another exclusive interview by Recovery Today Magazine, recoverytodaymagazine.com. If you hang on just a second, Jason, I'll stop the recording button. So one moment.